If the Gita is there, focus only on Gita. All else is just stories. Gita is not a story. Gita is a philosophical document of the highest order. It is not storytelling.
Acharya ji Pranam. Raman Maharshi says, the only useful purpose of the present birth is to turn within and realize it. There is nothing else to do. Then comes the question. Acharya ji, during Raman Maharshi's lifetime, there were people who were sincerely engaged in spiritual pursuits, and yet there were many others who dedicated their life for the country's freedom struggle. Even some saints chose not to take part in the affairs of the country and remain as they are, and some saints chose to fight against the discrete manifestation of evil in the society. How do we know that we have to be active participants in the affairs of the world, or we have to turn inwards and realize? How do I know if one is suited for karma or gyan? These are not really different. When you say that the country needed to be liberated, what is it that you exactly mean? Those who were deeply into the freedom struggle never said that their objective is merely the change of political leadership at the center. They were very clear that the country is an organic entity and is represented by people, and it represents a mass of people. The country is the people. So the liberation of the country is just another name for the liberation of the people. When you say, I am fighting for my country's independence, you are actually fighting for the people's freedom. And if one says that one is fighting for the people's freedom, it is obvious that mere political freedom would be a very nominal freedom. Things have to really change from a state of bondage to a state of liberation for the common man. That is what is meant by freedom, right? So when you say that you want the country's freedom, you actually want the state of the country's residents to change from one of bondage to one of freedom. Now, in what all forms does the common person in the country suffer bondage? Look at his life. Look at your own life. Is the bondage merely political? Is bondage or slavery or dependence merely political? In fact, political subjugation is a small part of the total set of dependencies that one lives in. Right? It is just that political subjugation is often the most visible and one of the loudest elements in the overall set of forces that dominate and enslave us. Look at Mahatma Gandhi, or look at Bhim Rao Ambedkar, or look at Bhagat Singh, or look at Subhash Chandra Bose, or look at Jawaharlal Nehru. Or look at Madan Mohan Malviya. Go and talk to them, read them. Surely their agenda was not at all limited to driving the British away. Driving the British away might have been their immediate objective, but it was not the only or the final objective. There were a lot of things to be done once the Brits were gone. In fact, Mahatma Gandhi resigned from the membership of the political party Congress 2 decades before independence. And he said that his work would now be about emancipating the masses from their inner bondages. So he took up programs against the caste system, towards empowerment of the village unit, towards communal amity, towards cleanliness, towards a self-sufficient village economy, and such things. Right? Anybody who will go deep into the minds of the freedom fighters will discover that gaining independence from Britain was just the starting point in their agenda. And then there was a lot more to be done. That lot more was already being done by Ramana Maharshi. So Ramana Maharshi is actively contributing to inner freedom and passively contributing to political freedom. And the active political freedom fighters are immediately and actively contributing to political freedom and potentially contributing to inner freedom. Because once political freedom is achieved, it becomes easier to bring about other freedom-centric changes in the society. So both were doing the same thing, be it Ramana Maharshi or be it a Mahatma Gandhi or Chandrasekhar Azad or Bhagat Singh. It's just that the means were different. When Ramana Maharshi liberates you from within, then how will you support outer subjugation? The one who has come to see himself as the ever free Atma, how will he now bow his head down to an external master? Therefore, it is no surprise that many of the freedom fighters were deeply spiritual in their approach. When you are spiritual, then you know inner freedom. When you know inner freedom, then you give no importance to external bondages. Doesn't matter how lucrative they are or how overpowering they are. Are you getting it? So, Ramana Maharshi is liberating you from within. The political activists, the known freedom fighters, they are liberating you from without. Both are actually attempting the same thing towards the same end, which is complete liberation of the individual. So do not try to see a division or a dichotomy here. You have asked, which marg, path do I take, karma or gyan? It almost sounds like karma is the path of agyan. The moment you say that should I take the path of karma or gyan, you have made karma sound like agyan and gyan sound like akarmanyata. As if the Jnana yogi is the one who does nothing and the karma yogi is the one who knows nothing. What kind of an impossible division is this? Gyan leads to the right karma, and often that right karma is very vigorous, very energetic, very explosive. At the same time, the right karma yogi cannot proceed with his karma without realizing what karma is and to what end must karma, action, be made. These two are one. It's just that one starts from this place, the other starts from this place. but they meet in the same place. They are attempting the same thing. In fact, they are walking down the same road. It's just that one starts off keeping his left foot ahead, and the other starts off keeping his right foot ahead. So, that is the great difference that you can find between these two. Both are walking down the same road towards the same destination. One is walking left, right, left, right, left. The other is walking right, left, right, left, right. And you are saying, see, they are different. How different are they? How different are they? Never say that the presence of somebody like Raman Maharshi does not contribute to the welfare of the country, including the political welfare of the country. Even if he does not directly jump into the freedom struggle, he has his own ways. In fact, he used to say, how do you know that I am not bringing about a great social change by just sitting here? It's a question of means. There are those who roam about the entire country. There are those who bring about a revolution by using bombs and grenades and guns and pistols. And then there is the way of Raman Maharshi. He too is bringing about a revolution in his own way of silence. That was his way, the way of silence. But do not think that his way was any less effective. It was actually more effective. It always has been more effective. Revolutions that start from inside, revolutions that affect the very core of man, are always more successful than revolutions that seem to change merely the political order. After all, if the political order changes, then you just change your master, your political master. Your slavery remains the same. And how does it help you if you just switch from one master to the other, if you are to continue as a slave? The white Sahib went away, we rejoiced, and his place was taken by the brown Sahib. What kind of freedom is this if we are not gaining internal freedom? It saddens me to say that Indians are still one of the psychologically most subjugated and most subdued people in the world. The imprint of years of slavery is still too thick on us. Politically and externally, we might have gained freedom, but internally we are far from free. That doesn't mean that the rest of the world is very free. The rest of the world too lives in inner subjugations. But we Indians seem to be a step ahead of them as far as choosing slavery is concerned. That is the concern of a saint. The saint says, of what use is political freedom if internally you still choose to be a slave of somebody? Worse still, of what use is external freedom if internally you are a slave to yourself? The worst slavery is when you are your own slave, when you are a slave to your own ego, when you are a slave to your own vrittis, carnal tendencies, hormonal upsurges, social conditioning, physical compulsiveness. When you are a slave to all these, Of what use is external freedom? Of course, it is of some use, but very limited use. Much more important is inner freedom. So when you have somebody like Raman Maharshi, kindly do not try to draw a distinction. Do not say, oh, Raman Maharshi did not do anything for the country's freedom. There were others who were doing a lot. Not true. It is impossible that you have somebody like Raman Maharshi and he does not bring you to the truest of freedoms. At the same time, great respect is deserved by those who fought for freedom from the yoke of alien masters, for an occupation. Because an external climate of political freedom enables inner freedom as well. So these two go hand in hand. It's just that even though these two go hand in hand, among these two, among inner freedom and outer freedom, the more important one is inner freedom. Both are important. Inner freedom and outer freedom, both are two sides of the same coin. But if one has to choose between the two, the more important one is inner freedom. Why is inner freedom more important? The reason is very obvious. Please understand. The world is a great system that you really cannot affect or control or determine. You do not know what would happen next. As we sit here, an earthquake may strike us right now. We have no control over that. And there is very little predictability in life. So external situations and circumstances and events cannot even be predicted, let alone controlled. However, there is one thing that you can always be a master of. What? Your inner self. Therefore, those who have known the external world and the inner world have said both freedoms are important, external freedom and inner freedom. But external freedom would always remain a thing of chance, a little dicey. Inner freedom is guaranteed. You are your own master. Outside, things can change by way of accident or coincidence. Inside, no accident is possible without your permission. Inside, you are the only one. Inside, you are the ruler. Therefore, if you have to choose between these two, inner freedom and outer freedom, choose inner freedom. And if possible, have both, inner and outer. Both are important. Among these two, more important one is the inner one. Right? So, Raman Maharshi is every bit as much of a freedom fighter as the greatest name we can take in the glorious list of freedom fighters we have had. Right? But in his own way. In his way of silence, in his way of inwardness. Getting it?